What's up, Union Arena players? This is Kyle D, better known as Universities, and today we actually have something fun to talk about. I'm very excited to talk about the basically week 1 of Attack on Titan and volume 2 of Code Geass. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So let's take a look. It looks like Lancelot is definitely taking the headway strong lead for this, but also the green Attack on Titan deck has actually pulled up with a lot of tops as well, reaching up to 4 tops this week. In 1 week alone, that's kind of impressive, especially for a new deck and everything. Blue Levi only sneaking in 1 win. Rolo sneaking in a 1 win. 1 win for the Attack on Titan Red. 1 win for the Historia. And then we do have at least 3 wins for Red, the 104th deck. That basically is Hyper Aggro Incarnate. So it's kind of cool to see where things are going. And just taking a look here, we have a lot of good decks across the board. You know, we had 2 of Alicization kind of getting some tops as well. We had some Totos getting some tops, getting 3. Also, not gonna lie, we also got 3 tops with Purple Code Geass making a reoccurrence. Mustangs seemed like it kind of fell off once the Attack on Titan stuff came in. I don't know if that's actually just because fan flavor, that just people really wanted to play the Attack on Titan, but starting next week I think we should see more and more commonplace, because with the regionals coming up, players are going to be playing their best decks to get those reps in. So again, at the end of the month, so the next couple weeks, I expect unless Rurouni Kenshin kind of changes things up, which it should, because Red Rurouni is one of the best decks in Japan right now. So just something to think about here. Giving Red probably one of their strongest outputs. But taking a look though, Sukuna making a reappearance, Byakuya sneaking in, we had Squad Zeros, we even had some Asta decks sneaking in, a Tanjiro Nezuko, and we had the Sisters. So this is kind of good to give us a well-rounded database for tops for at least, I'm only taking top 4s because prizing is paid out by top 4 this set, and it's super important just to keep an eye out on that and just be like, okay, I'm ready for this information. So something like that is kind of important, right? So let's take a look here. So first is the Blue Levi, because again, players want to see what this deck can do. So taking a look here, we have Levi himself. This one gains double attack but can attack up to 3 times, and when played, he kind of gains snipe. So this is basically the 6 cost Levi. Make sure that you can get those damage in. The deck focuses around using an AP or 2 by their effects. You know, at the start attack phase, if this character is active, choose up to 1 AP, switch it to active. You know, because even this one will switch it to active when attacking. You pay 1 AP. It gives, if you do choose up to 1 character with 1000 BP, this character cannot be chosen by your opponent's trigger abilities until the end of turn. Then you have like raid. You just have so many avenues that wants to use your AP. You know, this Levi basically draw a card, give this character plus 500 BP. This one generates an energy by paying 1 energy, but it also at the start of your attack phase, this turn, choose up to 1 of your AP, switch it to active. So you gotta always just be using all your AP for these extended attacks, you know, being able to give boosts to characters, make them 4000 BP, you know, make them always 4Ks. So it allows you to have pressure, and with 6 cost Levi being able to double attack and snipe, it's always good that way. Now we do have Sword Art Online, the swap deck, aka Asuna Kirito. This deck always does extremely well. The ability to have as many attacks as it does makes it really hard early game or even late game for your opponent to block everything. Again, multi-attacking is super important in decks right now. Just being able to get those extra attacks in really screws up energy line, screws up patterns and everything like that, allowing your opponent not to be able to block enough. And then once you get in, you get in. Now we have Sukuna. This one's pure. They are playing the Akari. She is just in here because she is a draw trigger and a 25k body. It's up to you what you want to do with it, but I think for purposes, just seeing Sukuna come back a little bit, getting one top is already a challenge. It looks like it already has been struggling against like Roy Mustang, who can just do a better job removing. And, you know, Yuji and Sukuna, both are great cards, but when there are more decks that can just easily out what you're doing, it makes it already a challenge for Sukuna. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we get the unrestriction and just let us have it at full power, but I wouldn't expect that probably till like next year, just because this deck is starting to fall off pretty quickly. Actually, it almost seems like it needs a volume 3 to kind of just compete. Now, Historia is a deck that basically plays similar to like the Esper Sisters, similar to the other decks that we know and love, and that is, God, I am failing right now on names. The red deck in Black Clover, the Mimosa, Dragon Chick, Water Dance Girl. Dang, I am dropping a ball on name. Wow, everybody's gonna make fun of me for that one. But Noelle, there we go. That's the name. We figured it out. So similar to them, they all want to be playing with their options, so they play a little bit more and they take advantage of that. So yeah, I mean, up to you how you want to build it and stuff, but Historia is a really good card. 2 or more when attacking, choose up to 1, 104th cadet. So she gives it 1000 DP. She also, if you have 4 or more, you instantly give, if you have an event, if you use an event this turn, choose up to 1 of your AP, switch it to active, which helps you extend a little bit more, which again, comboing with this, you can basically go from 1, use this, go to 3. That's pretty good. I mean, being able to extend plays is really good. And then it also has the ability, if you use an event this turn, choose up to 1 AP card, switch it to active. And then, these impact 1, if you have 6 or more, is always scary. So it's always a clock on this deck, because once they get to that, they always have, your moral Jaw Titan that basically gets to draw a card, then place 1 card from your hand. If you have 6 or more events in your sideline, switch this character to active. So she's going to be your multi-attacker, and she's very easy to get off once you have the requirements, right? So it's just something to think about when you're deck building and just experimenting. Yeah, some people do play Eren Yeager in the list. Some people just play this at a full play set, but it's up to you how you want to build your deck, and there's no real wrong way. Now, we got Roy Mustang. So this is one of the decks that a lot of people were writing off as bad off the get-go, but this deck has been really good competitively, just because controlling board with removal constantly with a combination of Riza plus Roy is just that good. It's the abilities that combo with each other just makes it really much a challenge for some players to keep up. And again, if your opponent isn't on a bunch of 5Ks, this deck can easily eat 4Ks for breakfast, because again, the combination of Riza dropping it by 2, then you have Roy, just again, 5K meta, 6K metas, stuff like that. It struggles a little bit, because again, that's more cards you have to be ready to discard for, because even afterwards, Riza can only bring down the 4K, and that means it's always discarding 3 with Roy. And again, 3 gets expensive constantly having to do that, and eventually you lose out of hand momentum. So again, the deck has a lot of good things going for it, because it does have a lot of draw triggers in its lineup naturally. So basically, most likely your opponent just fuels your hand. So again, having all these gets and draws, they don't really rely on act triggers as often as most decks. They focus really on that draw trigger that they really want. So again, this thing always has some beefy hands, especially after your opponent swings into it. Now, we do have Rolo's deck. So Rolo's deck is a very interesting one for a lot of players. This definitely is a deck of I need to be a confident pilot with. This thing should have been yellow, to be straight honest with you, but it wasn't made into yellow, which is fine. But Rolo's deck is a very powerhouse deck. Is definitely a big sleeper pick for some players because they don't know what they're doing with the deck yet. But there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of players will evolve and adapt with their list very comfortably and eventually have a fantastic time on knowing what to do with it. The fact of the matter is Rolo's abilities are fantastic. Being able to suspend things and then having the, Lelouch's mech be able to basically have protection from everything minus like a hand removal is really powerful just for having your opponent's stuff be suspended and having Locket be able to unsuspend your Rolo mech and get in those extra damage. Again, leads into these very powerful push turns that your opponent's just not ready for. And again, I love the C2 that nullifies impact because when she is removed, because once you remove one, you can give it to something else. And that right there proves why this deck is strong. Having that kind of C2 being able to basically double nullify impact to attacks if your opponent, or just be a target and then guarantee that you have another nullify impact, can save your life in a matchup. But again, the Rolo being able to come in, suspend, lock something, really good. And to be honest with you, I wish it was a yellow deck because I feel like this deck would have done so much better in yellow. Having the color trigger be yellow would have been the best thing for this deck because again, if you hit and lock them down, you're now in a good spot. And I think a lot of players are sleeping on the Rolo deck. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Now we do have Toto. Toto is a very good competitive deck regardless, just because again, it has a double damager, but the ability to screw with your opponent's energy line is huge. And again, they also have access to Boogie Woogie and other things that just make your opponent have a bad day. And again, now we're getting into... No, you're supposed to be down here, bub. We have none other than Purple Asta. This is basically the tribal deck of the set because, again, it focuses on having the most black bulls. And again, players like their black bulls. Purple definitely, I feel like, needs a volume 2. This definitely needs one eventually for this deck to really pop off, but eventually it will. Now, we get into the new code Gias. So, again, Joseph Ryder, definitely a great player. And guys, if you're checking these videos out and you top your locals with at least 3 rounds, you top. Make sure you use hashtag Union Arena tops. This will let me know what I'm looking for on Twitter or Instagram, so we can definitely use this as a way of knowing where your the tops are. But Joseph Ryder, always a great player. He got 3rd place with his purple code Gias. Definitely don't know if I would play this Lelouch at that big of a count, but I mean, I don't know. The purple color trigger depends on what you want to build, right? I think the Collins a little bit better because you're going to be playing more of these Collins more often because this is more your game finisher than Gawain, but I know why this Lelouch is pretty dang strong. So it's up to you how you want to go about it. I love the C2 nullify impact. The only problem is 5 non-triggers is a little bit much for my taste. Now taking a look, we do have the Byakuya Kuchiki list with Squad 0, just taking advantage of feeling your trash and then using Byakuya being another impactor comboing with this Ichigo. Just really scary, and especially being able to minus your opponent's board is sometimes very much a challenge for some decks. Byakuya Kuchiki is always a sleeper pick for a lot of players. Now, we do have Squad 0 naturally being Squad 0. And again, this is just what you kind of normally see for Squad 0. Now, again, Red Attack on Titan. So this is the big boy, Aaron's Attack on Titan. So if we look at it, this deck focuses on, if you're at 3 or less life, switch this character active, being able to deal 2 damage, or choice of just being an impact threat. Early game, being a 5k double damage or an impact 1. Most players have to make choices, and the fact of the matter is that this character's 2000 DP or less on your opponent's front lines, sideline it. So, and there are cards that combo in so that you can increase that threshold. You know, when played, the next time you choose a character with ability that sacrifices a BP range this turn, add 1000 to that BP range. You can choose a character with 3000 DP with this ability that lets you choose a character with 2000 DP. So again, if you can get Armin out at the right time, you could easily get rid of some of the more notoriously annoying blockers. So, you know, even just having Mikasa be able to do that as well is really good. The fact of the matter is this deck can apply so much good pressure that your opponent just sometimes isn't ready for. And the fact that omnidirectional is really nasty early game, and then you have like Hardened Punch as the other one, as the other removal. Just, again, very powerful cards. I think the aggro version of this deck is just nasty at times. Now, we do have none other than our boy Eren Yeager as well. So yeah, this one is the more lower to the curb list that you kind of come to see. It doesn't play the big one, but again, the deck's main overall strategy is just getting in there with the 104th Corp and just applying pressure, just being able to use omnidirectional or use Eren Yeagers at 4 just to play an extra body out, getting the extra damage in, and your opponent just has to time this right. Again, this deck has the ability to be super aggressive, and a lot of decks just can't keep up with that early aggression that this deck can produce. So again, this deck can definitely sneak in. One of the few decks that you don't play a full playset of finals in, because again, you want your characters, you want the most maximum amount of characters and be able to swing in as much as you can. Now, again, here's another Eren Yeager deck. This one plays only one Attack on Titan instead of being a full playset, so they don't really hyper focus on this one. It's just a game finisher for them, and they also have this Eren as well. But again, really powerful. Just being able to get those attacks in is really nice. Now, we do have none other than Roy and Riza, just being really solid cards here. Up to you how you want to be building the decks. Wow, you should have been in blue, but we'll move you up there. Sorry, not sorry. But move over this one. Now we should be getting into Lancelot. Lancelot is one for the books, guys. Again, there's many ways to build this. Some people like unit maintenance, some people like another character, but this is kind of where most people are sitting at. This deck is very much solved right now. There's nothing really out of the ordinary that you'll find out of this. You know, unit maintenance, Lancelot upgrade. Some people do choose to play Lloyd instead. It is a choice. I don't like going to 11 non-triggers. I'm very skeptical on that, and I've always stood by 8 non-triggers is the best, but I get it. Playing Jeremiah plus this, I don't understand why you would, but again, not only really puts in the work in these decks, and it really shows that A+ potential. Now we'll get into green Attack on Titan. So this focuses on Colossal Titan, again comboing in with a few of other cards that just help it out, come in cheap. You know, Rainer will be able to generate 3 energy. You know, if you have 6 or more, this character becomes a 4K Rainer. You know, just stuff like this matters. Being able to, you know, draw a card for if you're at 6 or more. You know, this card is the number of cards in your you can place into your front line is reduced by 1. So again, he's a 6K, but reduces the field size. But the fact of the matter is, are we doing it now here? Just gaining that extra 2 generations can lead to getting the Colossal out very comfortably, easily. So just keep that in mind, that once this comes out, you'll lose a spot on your front line, which means you're more susceptible to damage. But the earlier this comes out on an empty board against your opponent means more damage you get to apply in, and you don't really care after that. So just keep that in mind. You're on a clock, but again, 3 damage and an impact 1 is always scary. and then being sidelining all 0 energy from your opponent's front line means that if they were building up a small aggression, you can easily just clear them out. Now, again, big Attack on Titan deck. Again, just really good for the Armor Titan. Same thing, again, just Armor Titan doing its thing. And then we have green Asta. Again, very little happens with this. The Asta deck is just always a fun treat. It's just being able to nullify draw triggers, and this against certain decks can really screw them over. Then we do have Alicization. So again, this list does pretty well into the Rumble Rama events. They really put in a lot of work and effort into this, and they do extremely well with the Kirito double attack and, you know, like Alice and Yugo. So then we have Tanjiro Nezuko being Tanjiro Nezuko. Again, players play their list how they want, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now we do have finally the Esper Sisters. Esper Sisters doing Esper Sister things. I have no objections on this. I think we're pretty solid across the board here, but let me know down in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.